UConn, Alabama in the nightcap. Connecticut obviously is a huge favorite, as they are basically in every game they play. 11.5, and looks like, Ken, this is going to 12 at our show sponsor, BetMGM. Total 161.5. I said it to start the show. I am getting the sense about UConn that they are Patrick Mahomes, basically, in college basketball form. And I don't want games to pass and money left on the table not betting on Patrick Mahomes. I'm going to lay UConn in this game, and I'm going to lay them in the national championship no matter who they play. So as long as UConn's in the tournament, I'm betting them. I'm going to lay the points with UConn against Alabama. I should probably do that soon, right? Because I think this point spread's only going one direction. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think UConn's more likely to get bet out than people are likely to bet Alabama down from a spread standpoint. It's just worth noting, like, ignoring like how crazy UConn is for a second, like how good they are and how monster the performances are. Just thinking about Alabama, I mean, you are getting a really volatile team at a really big number. This was one of the appeals of, like, we talked about this against North Carolina, and I know you love North Carolina in that game, but like I've even said on the show, like this is something about how Alabama's, like, they are part of being volatile is in any moment they have the 110-point performance and they beat anybody. Like, that's part of their success. That's part of actually what makes them good. And in any moment they can get beat by 60 by somebody. I mean, they really could get run off the court in this game badly. And so, but there is like there is a puncher's chance element to this because Alabama is so good at scoring. This isn't just like, I think about a team like Iowa State or something who's like really good defensively, good enough on offense, but they feel like they have a low ceiling, but their rating is really good. I mean, UConn would be the same number or less against a team like Iowa State than they would be against Alabama. I would give Iowa State a 0% chance of winning. I mean, I don't even know how they'd score or win. So there is an element to Alabama where, like, at least they're showing up to a game. Like, they're going to be able to score to some degree. There will be some 3-point variance involved, like there is with every tournament game. But, like, they can show up, like, there is a puncher's chance. This is a puncher's chance type of team, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So, like, they can be competitive in the game. This isn't just like a walkover. Just, again, like, on average, I agree with you. Like, the way UConn is playing right now, I didn't really want to be against them against Illinois. You and I both bet San Diego State. I wasn't against them in the first two games. I took Northwestern in the second round. I didn't bet against UConn in the first round. Yeah, like, I don't know why I'd be against them ever. You could see it in the Illinois game to a certain extent where, like, in the first half it's like they're almost like looking for the weakness, and it's like, well, let's try doing this for a couple possessions. Nah, that's not it. All right, let's try doing this for a couple possessions. And then, like, in the second half it's like something works. It's like, well, now let's attack that mercilessly every single possession and, like, make the opponent submit. And it's like there's this methodical killer attitude to that's like really cool to watch play out in a basketball game. And that what would concern me is, okay, like, Alabama comes out and they're one of their strengths transition threes, right? Like, let's say they have a lot of success doing that. I'm sure UConn will be prepared for that, but, like, let's say that works. Or Klingon gets in foul trouble, or, like, how do we want to cover Sears? Like, do we want to let, like, what do we want to do with him versus the other players on the court? If something doesn't work, I think the confidence you have with UConn is like, yeah, they'll just try one of 10 other things that they've also prepared for, and, like, we'll have the personnel to execute, and we'll buy in, and we'll do it. It's like, that's what makes them so good, honestly, in addition to the talent. Like, look, Duke's got NBA talent too. Like, other teams have NBA talent. Maybe they don't have it like this, but, like, they do. Kentucky has NBA talent. And the difference, and, like, Hurley talks about it after every game now, is just there's that buy-in to, like, cool, like, a lot of you are going to play in the NBA. In this game, like, I need you to do this. And, like, Stephon Castle's going to be a lottery pick. He didn't score in the game, basically, against Illinois. Like, there's a maturity to a lot of that that's just, like, really interesting to follow. My point is, I guess, like, Alabama might throw some crazy stuff at them, and it might work. Over 40 minutes, just like, who's been able to hang? Nobody. I don't know if this is going to be different.
What do you think about, though, as a content device this week? I'm workshopping it. Like, I didn't think about it before the show. What do you think about UConn is Mahomes' take? You like it as, like, a content device?
It's well, like, it makes sense to me. So that's, like, the first test, right? Like, do I even understand what you're talking about? Yes. The problem is, like, Mahomes is a person. And UConn is a collection of people. Like, is Hurley Mahomes? Like, is that what it is? Like, the teams he coaches are on this run? Because the players are totally different from last year to this year. Like, they
It's
lost three players to the
inevitability.
NBA, they got more, right? Is it the mascot? Like, who is, like, who's Mahomes? Like, in this situation. I just, that's the hang up, but like, you know, what do the two things have in common? Sure, like I totally get that. Mahomes wins every single playoff game with a couple exceptions. UConn's on a run where they win and cover against everybody. I think everybody knows what you're talking about. And this happens, right? Like we just people get bored, and if something new comes along, then we're going to devote a lot of attention to it. And sometimes those new things win, and sometimes they don't. And this one, we're trying to figure out like what it is. Is this just something we all want to talk about, and that he comes in second, or is there like a really realistic chance that he's going to win this? The problem, well, I'll do the pro case first. If you didn't know the players, who the other players were, and you just looked at Luca as an MVP candidate, and I have like a scoring system for this. It's like pretty rudimentary, but it's helpful. Like Luca is an easy MVP winner. Like just statistically, like the things that he does, where he rates in advanced metrics, the team's success, and that's the biggest thing that's changed with this winning streak and how they played for the last month or so. He was dismissed as an MVP candidate because they weren't going to win enough, and now there's a chance that they're like a top 6 or even a top 5 seed in the conference and will win their own division. And that's much different than being in the play-in or something else. So being able to overcome that, excuse me, definitely like not knowing who the other players are that he's competing against, this profile is an MVP caliber profile, and it wasn't before. So that's a big development, right? The problem is like, oh, well, who are the other players this year? Be like, well, there's a guy that's going to be the one maybe who is first in every metric basically that counts. EPM does not like Jokic very much, that particular measurement. Everything else says he's the best guy. PER, he's the best. Box plus minus, he's the best. Win shares, he's first. I have all his advanced metrics up. There's a row of ones next to the ranking for his name. So that's like a big part of this is just the guy on the one seed that's first in everything is the guy he's competing against. And the question's just going to be, is there enough voter fatigue, which is like, I use it too much probably too, just as a term. Is there enough of that? And with Jokic steering people to vote for Luka anyway, which he did after they played a few weeks ago, I think he's the MVP actually. Is there enough of that that a guy can be the one seed and first in everything and the voters get steered to somebody else? Is there enough to have that happen? My opinion just right now is I can see it happening. I just don't think it's enough to bet 5-1 that it'll happen. But like the direction we're going in, sure, you can. There's a little bit of smoke starting. I think you just need. I need more belief that this is a real thing before I would bet it.
And it feels like the Nuggets' schedule down the stretch is not difficult. Jeff, as of right now, like pencil, not pen answer, because still have a tournament to go before the Masters. As of right now, who's going to win the Masters?
Well, it's pretty much like, is Scotty Scheffler going to win the Masters? He literally threw his C game out on the weekend. He lost by a stroke. He gives charity tzedakah to the field. Like, gimme putts, 5-footers on 18, hits a perfect shot on Saturday that gets some backspin and goes into the water. I think he makes double, like on a perfect approach shot. He has to give it away. And as mentioned earlier, none of the elite players are playing well. Rory's not playing well. Does Rahm have that killer instinct that Brooks has that just flipped the switch? Well, Brooks won twice before on Live last year before the Masters. Rahm is yet to win. Maybe he wins this week at Doral, which should be very exciting. But he also has the returning champion responsibilities. So none of these elite players, other than Xander, who people don't really want to trust, are playing well. So Scotty Scheffler, but I don't know if you're talking odds. Scotty Scheffler.
Jeff, you
I didn't bet him. I don't have it.
Right. Well, he's 4-1 at BetMGM to win. I mean, 4-1 to win the Masters is like a pretty crazy price. Also, he was the favorite. A couple of years ago and won the green jacket. So I think you hit on it a little bit with Rahm and Koepka, but like I as you were giving this interview, I remember this last year where like everybody watched the PGA Tour event the week before the Masters, but everybody also paid attention to the Live event, and Koepka won it. And I've never seen a price crash in the Masters market. Like Masters is like, we know the golfers for a long time. The market's not going to go anywhere. And yet like he got bet like people knew the final score almost because he had played so well going in. There is a Live event this weekend. Could you see that same thing happening where like Rom or Brooks or somebody else plays really well? Like this was a crazy market and a dynamic last year that I had never seen before. In about a minute here, do you think we could see that again? And if so, with who?
Well, absolutely. I mean, there's 20 to 1s on Brooks to win the Masters right now. You could argue like that just seems like a fair bet. You want a Sunday sweat, like he will give it to you. He always does. Throughout the Blue Monster, it's a great course. We miss it on the PGA Tour. If Dustin Johnson, Brooks Koepka, any of these guys, Rom, they get going, I think you'll see the exact same sort of thing. Obviously, Neiman has been a monster and is playing great as well. If Brooks shows any like form, yeah, it'll get crowd. It'll be in the mid-teens for sure for the Masters. I totally agree.